The storm outside raged like a grieving heart, pounding against the windows of Hawthorne Manor as if trying to break in, and inside, a baby's cry echoed through the darkened halls. The widower, Mr. Adrian Hawthorne, stood helpless, exhausted from nights without sleep. His life had fallen apart since his wife's death, leaving only sorrow and a child who needed care. Servants whispered that the house felt cursed, and one by one, they began to resign. After months, hope seemed to crumble like damp paper, leaving only silence and tears. When the cook approached timidly, no one expected her to speak. Martha, round-faced and soft-hearted, cleared her throat shakily. Her hands trembled as tired eyes stared into the widower's grief. The baby wailed louder, desperate for warmth. And Martha finally whispered the words no one expected. "No one wants a fat girl, sir, but I can nurse the baby," she murmured, cheeks burning red with shame under society's cruel standards. Adrian stared, stunned, unsure how to respond. The maid behind her scoffed quietly, hiding a smirk of superiority. Martha hugged herself, ready to be rejected like always, bracing for familiar humiliation. But the baby's cries cut through everything like lightning through a tree. Adrian stepped closer, his eyes softening with desperate gratitude instead of disgust. He saw not size, but kindness, sacrifice, and courage. In a voice thick with exhaustion, he answered, "Then stay." It was not said with pity, but with hope. And for the first time in years, Martha felt her heart breathe. She carried the child gently, humming an old lullaby her mother sang when she was small. Warmth radiated through the nursery, quieting storms both outside and within. The baby's sobs softened into gentle hiccups before settling into peaceful sleep. Martha felt tears prick her eyes, overwhelmed by the connection they shared. Adrian watched, shoulders slowly lowering as the burden eased. He felt something shift, like a cracked window being repaired. When Martha left the room, whispers followed her down the corridor. Jealous maids gossiped viciously about her size and intentions. But Martha only smiled softly and kept walking, refusing to let cruelty win. Days turned into weeks, and the manor's cold halls began to warm. Martha cooked hearty meals, filling the air with the scent of fresh bread, herbs, and tender stews. The baby, little Lily, blossomed under her care, growing calmer and brighter. Adrian worked at his study, yet found excuses to visit the nursery. He noticed the gentle rock of Martha's arms, the lullabies that softened Lily's cries instantly. Rumors continued like thunder, but Martha held her head high. Her heart, long ignored, found purpose. She wasn't just feeding Lily, she was feeding souls starved for comfort. And slowly, the widower's grief loosened its claws. One evening, Adrian invited Martha to dine privately in the warm kitchen. Candlelight flickered across humble dishes she'd prepared herself. They talked not like master and servant, but like two lonely souls recognizing familiar scars. Adrian confessed how guilt kept him awake, believing he failed his late wife. Martha listened without judgment, offering quiet words of healing. She told him how society mocked her body, ignoring everything she could bring. For the first time, someone truly heard her. The conversation stretched long after the plates were cleared. And when they parted that night, hope lingered like the scent of cinnamon. But not everyone welcomed light returning to Hawthorne Manor. The head maid, Clarissa, sharpened her jealousy like a hidden dagger. She spread false rumors, claiming Martha seduced the widower with manipulation. Servants' whispers grew louder, painting gossip like poison on walls. Martha, however, refused to break, focusing on Lily's laughter. But seeds of doubt sprouted in Adrian's mind, fed by Clarissa's venomous tongue. Slowly, he became distant, his smiles fading again. Martha sensed the change like cold air creeping under a door. Her heart sank, but she carried on. Because Lily needed her more than pride ever could. One gloomy morning, Clarissa cornered Martha in the pantry. She hissed insults, calling her worthless, unwanted, and disgusting. Martha's hands trembled as she stood alone in that dim room. Old scars reopened with every cruel word, cutting deeper than knives. Tears blurred her vision, but she refused to cry aloud. Clarissa swore she'd have Martha dismissed by week's end. The threat settled heavy on Martha's chest like stones. And as Clarissa stormed out, triumph in her eyes, Martha collapsed against the shelves. Yet even in her breaking, she whispered a promise: I will not abandon Lily. Later that evening, Lily fell ill with a sudden fever, burning hot like fire. Panic erupted as servants scrambled uselessly. Adrian, terrified, called for Martha instinctively. She rushed in, her voice firm yet gentle, calming the chaos. She brewed herbal remedies, cooled Lily's skin with wet cloths, and hummed softly. Hours passed like nightmares as she fought the fever's grip. Adrian stayed beside her, watching Martha's strength shine brighter than doubt. Sweat glistened on her brow, but she never stopped. And when Lily finally sighed peacefully, fever fading, relief washed over the manor. Adrian's eyes filled with tears of gratitude. In that moment, the truth became undeniable. Martha wasn't a burden, nor a servant clinging to hope. She was the heart that healed what grief had shattered. Adrian took her hands, voice trembling. "Forgive me for listening to lies," he whispered. Martha hesitated, hurt still lingering like bruises. But Lily's small hand reached for hers, bridging the silence. Martha nodded slowly, choosing forgiveness over bitterness. And in that fragile moment, a quiet bond was born again. Whispers outside grew confused as the manor's spirit lifted. Hope had returned, stubborn and tender. As weeks rolled by, the change became impossible to ignore. Lily laughed more often, filling rooms with sunlight. Adrian joined meals in the kitchen, sharing stories and smiles. Martha baked pastries shaped like hearts and animals, delighting everyone. Clarissa, fuming, watched her influence crumble. She tried again to twist hearts, but no one listened. Because the manor had tasted warmth, and cold lies no longer satisfied. Adrian began taking walks with Martha in the gardens. Roses bloomed, and so did understanding. Something new whispered softly in their hearts. One warm afternoon, Lily took her first steps, wobbling toward Martha's open arms. Cheers erupted, and servants clapped with true joy. Adrian's eyes shone with pride, but also something deeper when he looked at Martha. She lifted Lily high, laughing like bells in spring. But Clarissa watched from the doorway, fists clenched tight. Her jealousy had grown ferocious, desperate. She vowed silently, if kindness couldn't be extinguished, she'd strike harder. And the storm she summoned would test every fragile bond. That night, Clarissa slipped into Adrian's study, forging a letter. It claimed Martha planned to take Lily away for ransom, twisting ink into wicked lies. She slipped the letter into Adrian's drawer, ensuring he'd find it. But fate has a way of protecting the pure-hearted. A servant boy witnessed everything from the shadows. Heart pounding, he waited until Clarissa fled, then rushed to Martha. He confessed tearfully, terrified of punishment. Martha thanked him gently, promising to protect him. She knew she had to face this storm head-on. Running wasn't in her nature, not anymore. The next morning, Martha approached Adrian, courage steady as iron. She told him everything, including her fear, her past wounds, and Clarissa's poison. Adrian listened silently, heart twisting with shame for ever doubting her. He confronted Clarissa before the entire staff, revealing the servant boy's testimony. Panic drained her face pale as snow. Her web of lies unspooled around her feet, leaving her exposed. Adrian dismissed her immediately, forbidding her return. The servants cheered quietly as Clarissa fled, defeated. Justice had found its mark at last. In the quiet that followed, Adrian turned to Martha with humbled eyes. He admitted his failings, his fears, his grief still clinging like vines. Martha gently placed her hand on his, offering understanding without judgment. They spoke